Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And in this episode, we welcome Amy Rosner. And Amy holds a Ph.D. in experimental psychology and spent 15 years teaching college psychology classes and doing brain research. She specializes in the evolution and neuroscience of visual attention and memory, and developing unique classes in the psychology of art and creativity. Amy combines hypnosis, guided imagery, neurolinguistic programming, NLP, and primal health and life coaching techniques to help people reprogram physical and emotional discomfort and limiting beliefs. This can increase relaxation and clarity of thought and helps people live more mindfully and creatively. Together with her emphasis on evolutionary biology, she helps her clients work with their brains, not against them, to change their life stories and create new possibilities for success. She's the author of the newly released Reconstructing Reality, Outsmarting the Brain to Rewrite Our Life Stories, which is already an Amazon bestseller in 3 categories. Welcome, Amy. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so you recently came out with your book, Reconstructing Reality, which I read, and that's actually what prompted me to reach out to you to have you on the show. So how did you come up with the title? Because it's super interesting to me, so I want to just kind of get your thinking behind that. Like, how do you see reconstructing reality, or kind of what does that sound like to you, or what do you feel about it?
So it actually came from current neuroscience research, where we used to think that maybe there were some inborn concepts that we had for emotion, for example, like everybody is born with a concept for happiness or sadness or things like that. And over the years, there's been a lot of research on that in all areas. But just taking emotion, in a great book just came out not too long ago, How Emotions Are Made, by Linda Barrett, and I highly recommend that for anyone who wants a deep dive in this. But I didn't do a deep dive in my book. But the idea is, with the more sophisticated and later research that we've had, that doesn't seem to be the case. What happens in the brain is that we have concepts that are formed through our experience and language, and then those concepts are reconstructed whenever we tap into them. So memories, for example, work the same way. If you bring a memory up in your mind, it's not like bringing up an image on your computer. It's not going to be exactly the same every time. It's going to change. You're actually reconstructing that memory each time you bring it up. And that's how the fish you caught when you were 6, first time you told the story, it was a few inches long, and by the time you're 40, it's a couple feet long. You're reconstructing it every time, and you're changing in accordance to what you want, what feels good, your experiences, other people's reactions to those things. All of this combines to change your concepts, your memories, and that includes self-concept, how you feel about yourself. So the way the brain works is reconstruction. And with what we do using subconscious techniques to change how people feel and think and behave, we're essentially tapping into that reconstructive process. That is the natural way that the brain works. So it's not hocus pocus or magic or anything like a lot of people tend to think. It's just a series of brain hacks to be able to quickly and easily tap into that natural way that the brain works. So we are, in essence, reconstructing our concepts of reality in our heads all the time. just with experience, your brain just does that automatically. That's its job, is to reconstruct everything 24/7. That's pretty much all it's doing. We can, with these brain hacks, we can make that a much more efficient and perhaps more effective process. So some things that may be troublesome for some people to reconstruct become very easy.
Thank you for that. I think I read that book that you mentioned as well. It talks about constructing emotions and all this. It's super interesting. So of course, everyone get that book, and of course, get Amy's Reconstructing Reality. So in your book, it has, endless amounts of success stories of all doing brain hacks and the subconscious work with people. So what prompted you to, we were talking before, you did research before. So what prompted you to be like, okay, wow, now I have to start using these brain hacks and actually help people? What made you want to do that?
So I've been in psychology for over 30 years, and I got into experimental psychology and brain science in particular, instead of clinical, psychotherapy, because I didn't like a few things about it. I didn't like the success ratio, for one thing. It's not all that hot. I also didn't like the idea of seeing people as broken and then trying to use whatever school of thought I was trained in to fix them. It resonated more with me. I got into brain science, and I was a professor and did a lot of work in that area. And then I wound up leaving, and I did some other kind of work that led me into coaching. And that was something I didn't know anything about. That wasn't even a thing when I went to graduate school, right? And so the more I learned about it and had sessions for a year, the more I realized the benefits philosophically and practically to that kind of approach. It just resonated more with me. Now, some people may resonate more with therapy than they do with coaching, but I was one that resonated more with coaching, because you're not viewing someone as broken. You're viewing them as, in my terms, I think about everybody as a brain. So I think, okay, what's the brain doing in this situation? And in a coaching paradigm, that brain is focused on positive outcome as opposed to problem that needs fixing, right? So the kind of analogy I give people sometimes to let them know the difference between, therapy and coaching, and this is just general, and a lot of therapists use coaching techniques now, but you can think of therapy as kind of, you're running around a track, and the therapist is in the stands watching you and making notes on issues you're having with your running, and then comparing those issues or symptoms to, diagnoses. And if you have enough of those symptoms, then you're diagnosed with a particular issue. And then based on their school of thought, if it's cognitive behavioral, if it's psychoanalytic, whatever, they come up with a treatment plan to fix you. Coaching, on the other hand, that coach would be running around the track with you, pointing out what you're doing right. And then if you have, these subconscious hacks on board, it's like having a big old laser gun that just shoots any of the obstructions in your way. So they're just not there anymore. They just don't exist. And you can have a, clean field to run around. So that just resonated a lot more with me. And then after getting into coaching for a while, I realized that I needed that laser gun on my shoulder, like to really get people where they needed to go. As I've gone through this process, it's done nothing but reinforce that decision, over and over again, just from the results that I've had.
I was waiting for you to say that you were going to be running around the track. Once you had the sitting in the stands, I knew you were going to say that next. Now, in the book, too, you talk a lot about people making these changes and finding solutions fast. Can you, for people who have never done anything like this for themselves, obviously I've done therapy as well, so I know the difference. Why does change happen so fast, and why can it be long lasting? Can you help people understand this?
And that actually goes back to the whole reconstruction process. In the book, I discuss how the brain works, and something that is going to tap into those natural processes that the brain is doing all the time anyway is going to be a really quick and more permanent fix than something that your brain doesn't really know what to do with, at the outset. So maybe some techniques are not quite getting, where they need to go. For example, if you do just some simple, affirmation work, just some suggestion therapy, we call it, where you're just giving yourself a positive suggestion, over and over. Repetition is your best friend. It's kind of a, brute force reprogramming, if you will. But there are different ways that you can do that. So, back in the day, I'm going to totally date myself. Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live, those of you who remember him, he actually had some really good suggestions that he used. They were, short, to the point, positive, present tense. But the problem was he was in a conscious state when he was delivering those suggestions. He was looking in a mirror at himself. And you can do some good work that way. It's not that doesn't work, but people who have tried doing it in a more subconscious way, utilizing this more reconstructive process that's naturally happening when you get down to that level, it's kind of like you're taking the lid off a pot to let something get in that otherwise wouldn't get in completely. And shifting over into that subconsciously oriented and controlled state will do that. It's like taking the lid off the pot. And so you can get in there and make changes. I mean, that's over 98% of your brain activity, and so that's going to win out over the 2% any day of, willpower and discipline and all that, right? So if you can get in there in a really quick and easy way and make some changes at that level, those are transformative and they're permanent. It's not like the same feeling comes back again ever. It's just gone. If you ask a client to try to get the feeling back that you reprogrammed that way, they can try and they'll start laughing because they can't bring it back. They don't know what happened to it, and they felt it very strongly just a few minutes before. So there is a difference in the depth of processing and being able to get down into where that reconstruction is actually happening with these kinds of unconsciously oriented brain hacks that just make everything so much easier than trying to, force yourself to do something.
Yeah, because you can only do that for so long. One of the things you mentioned as well was habits and repetition and things like this. So can you explain to everyone how you can use repetition to really install this new thinking or these new emotions so you don't have to feel the old things that they felt when they first came to see you?
Yeah, so repetition can be helpful. It can be your best friend when it comes to reprogramming some things. And it's just a matter of giving your brain that same experience over and over and over and over again, because that, your brain is going to be changing those concepts, reconstructing those concepts, those memories, those events in ways that are consistent with the environment and that current environment that you're putting it into. And so if you're not having necessarily any outside influence coming in, but you're thinking about something over and over again, you've got this internal repetition going, this internal environment change, you can help yourself get out of some ruts that are not sending you in directions you want to go, and move yourself into a direction you want to go much more easily by getting into that, subconsciously oriented state and just repeating that, kind of forcing reprogramming by sheer repetition. There are other brain hacks that we can use that it's one and done. There is no repetition that's necessary. It's just getting right in where it needs to go, and you're having that person using. I like using cognitive dissonance oriented techniques. I've developed a couple of those that I use that really helps to do some reprogramming on the fly when somebody, and you don't need an induction or any of that. People think, oh, well, you have to be in this, hypnotic state where you've got this induction and then you've got all this suggestion and imagery and stuff. That's not necessary at all. That's one experience of being in a hypnotic state, but we're in that state a lot during the day anyway. It's a natural human brain state. We can just get some control over that. And when you learn to do that and use any kind of hacks like repetition that will restructure those concepts and events, that information is going to be brought up whenever you're thinking about interacting, in those kinds of situations. And you're going to be behaving differently. You're going to be feeling differently. You're going to be thinking differently.
I mean, that's the whole point to feel different. I did a hypnosis session right before I recorded this, or we're recording this, and I was actually the client. So I'm very calm, cool, and relaxed as I'm sitting here listening to you as well. So that's the change. Now, the thing I like about hypnosis is someone can have a problem for decades, and they come to see us, and we can help them not only get rid of their problem, but focus on some new solutions. So if someone's had a problem for a really long time, there's always a way to, fix that with something like hypnosis. So if someone's had a problem for a really long time that's come to see you, can you explain how that works and why it works so well to get rid of such long-lasting programs or problems or whatever you want to refer to it as?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've had so many clients that have been dealing with something really negative in their life for decades, sometimes up to 60, 70 years. And it's amazing to me, that it hasn't changed. And I think it has to do with our interoceptive sense, which is what these brain hacks really hit upon and how they work. So interoception is a sense that we have that includes arousal and affect. And so arousal, of course, is, how, jazzed up you are if you're, between comatose and imploding, somewhere in there, you've got, the perfect state of arousal for you to be in any given situation, right? And that's going to change based on the situation and things going on around you. But then affect is a psychological term for emotion, basically. And so you can have negative affect, which would be, negative feelings, negative emotions. You can have positive affect, which is, happiness and joy and things like that. And then you can have neutral affect. And so what we do is basically make changes in both arousal and in affect with these brain hacks. And that's the system that is at the heart of that reconstruction. And so if there's something that is high arousal in our life, if it's, really great time we have with family at the holidays, or if it's a really traumatic event from our past, we don't have to try to remember those things. We're not going to be able to forget those things. They're really there. And because of that high arousal, they're going to stay there. They're going to stay there for decades. When we reduce that arousal, that impetus for keeping that event starts to go away. And then when we change the affect from negative, because the positive stuff we don't want to get rid of anyway, right? But we're dealing with the negative stuff. So, for example, a traumatic event, we change that affect from negative to neutral, or sometimes even positive. And with the low arousal, now we have a calm event that we feel either at peace with or even empowered by, rather than a negative arousal producing event that is there born of fear and sticks around so long because we need to be protected. And our brain is protecting us all the time. That's why it's there. It's to help protect us and help us live a good enough life to be able to succeed in reproducing and, being successful in terms of, an animal on this planet, right? So that's where I see, these techniques being so amazing, because we're tapping right into that system with the changes that we're making, which are all about arousal and affect.
That's one of the best explanations I've heard, to be honest. So thanks for sharing that. I was just like, wow, this makes too much sense to me. It made sense to my brain. So this is a brain that you're looking at right now, I guess. Now, we've talked about reconstructing reality. So how can you then help people create, they also want to create things in the future, or a new reality? Would you refer to that as a new reality, or are you constructing something? How do you look at that, and how can you help someone also do this?
So when I talk about reconstructing reality, it's not like there is a concept for reality per se that we're changing, but rather it's the sum total of all the experiences, our memories, our concepts of things, of people, of places, whatnot. So all of that comes together to give us the reality that we live in, right? And so any changes that we're making by reconstructing those pieces and parts are going to be impacting one another. And some of those are going to be bigger impacts than others. Sometimes there are people that need to wait a couple of weeks or a few weeks before having another session after they've made some kind of really big reconstructive change, like making a big upgrade in your operating system. And now all the apps and the plugins and everything have to learn to work together with that, right? And so it's a period of what I call accommodation where, there's a lot of other reconstruction going on downstream because of a big change that you've made. And so changes can be little, they can be big, but there are a few changes that can really make big differences in how someone sees their life and how they interact in life, just because they were so influential at the time that the events occurred or the concepts were constructed to begin with.
That's awesome. So that in the book as well, like I said earlier, there's so many different success stories. So for someone who hasn't picked up the book, can you share maybe one or two so people can really hear like, wow, this stuff really works. And so they would be also intrigued to also go read of the many more that are in there.
Yeah. So I tried to give a nice variety of success stories so that everybody could resonate with something that was in the book, because people see hypnotherapy and NLP as being, and coaching, there's a lot you can do, which is coaching. A lot of times people are put in a hypnotic state just by tapping into a deep emotion. And so once you make that shift, you can be having a conversation with somebody and they'll just slip into a hypnotic state. You don't have to actually go through a formal, hypnotherapy process to do it. So using any of these techniques where someone's going to be going into that state, there are a variety of things you can do, from very superficial to very deep and impactful. And so a lot of people think, oh, well, that's good to stop smoking. Well, yeah, that's true. It is. But that's kind of, to me, on the boring side, because it's usually a one and done sort of thing, but it's very impactful. Smoking is a very simple behavior. And the cause may get a little complex on occasion, but typically it's not. And so one session, look at all the money that people spend on products to stop smoking. And all you really need is, one session of hypno with someone who knows what they're doing, and you're good to go. I had one client that stopped smoking and drinking after one session, and his wife didn't believe him. And she kept trying to give him a beer or, give him a dragon or cigarette or whatever. And he just wasn't having it. So she came in to stop smoking, and her sister came in, and a couple other people from their crowd came in too. They dribble in, as it happens to one person, then their friends, start dribbling in. And then, if you use this kind of unconsciously oriented process as a maintenance, not just a corrective tool, if you will, but a maintenance tool for general mental health, you get all kinds of crazy benefits that I was never taught when I was trained in this stuff. And I didn't realize until I think about my second year in business, I had people asking me if I would have a monthly plan. Usually what we do is so fast, and you don't need to keep coming in for a bunch of sessions, but there are some people with a lot of issues. One of my clients started coming in monthly 8 years ago when I started offering a monthly plan. My whole idea was, okay, let's kick the baby birds out of the nest as soon as possible, get them on with their life, and they're not dependent on, this process or anything else. They can just handle their own stuff. But I also realized that it can be difficult to do that, and there can be a lot that needs to happen, and it's really good as a maintenance sort of thing. So this one person, for example, that's been coming in monthly without fail for the last 8+ years has gone from a very insecure person that could not remember anything. She was so stressed out all the time, she could not remember anything. And she was feeling like she was going to be let go from her job because she was flat out told she would never be a manager. And she was worried. And here she's a single mom with a huge history of abuse from the men in her life. And that pattern kept progressing, and that was a real issue, especially with kids involved. And so she had a lot that she needed to reprogram, a lot of reconstruction to do there. And a lot of it was born of fear, from growing up in fear and continually being in fear of her life all the time. And here she is 50 years old and she's still, dealing with this. And so we just, took one bite of the elephant at a time and just reprogrammed whatever she was having an issue with. She came in because she couldn't remember anything at work and she was afraid she was going to get fired. And so, okay, let's start with the memory issue and let's start releasing some stress. As stress goes away, memory gets better and imagery gets better. And so then you can do more work. And, today she never graduated college because she couldn't pass a math class. Today she has aced 3 math classes, gotten her degree, and she's about to start working on a graduate degree. Never thought she would do that. She's also now a coach and helping, especially younger women in their professional life and to get going in that respect. So that and helping people from abused backgrounds like herself, and she's even things like. Not only has she made manager, she's handling all kinds of big projects at work, and she's got a lot of responsibility, and she's also a leader in her community politically, and so she's just such a hugely different person now than she was when she came to see me, even in ways, and I didn't notice this, but she brought it to my attention that she used to wear a lot of dark colors, and over the last couple of years, she's been brightening up her wardrobe, And so you see all kinds of changes as you keep, doing these, reconstructive, quick and easy sessions and, just following where that brain goes. Yet I have never seen anyone's brain lead them in the wrong direction. If you just listen to what that person's brain is trying to get them to pay attention to, and they let loose and stop trying to control what's going on in their head, and let any negative feelings come up. I know we don't like to have negative thoughts and negative feelings, but they're natural. They're there for a reason. They're there to tell us where we can do something different, make some kind of change, and have a better life. So I teach people how to do that. The more they do sessions with me, the more I expect them to be doing their part in their own, mental health improvement and maintenance. And they just see bigger and bigger impacts, from it as they go along. So it's not just for little things like smoking, it's for massive life changes as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I noticed too, because the unconscious mind, it loves to generalize. So once we start to see good, like let's say in the smoking example, then we want to see good literally everywhere in our life. So that's one of the benefits in me. Like I do hypnosis just to feel good. Even if I don't have any sort of problem or something to work on, just simply to feel good. So I really appreciate the conversation, all the answers to the questions, really good insights. If someone wants to, pick up the book or connect with you, can you let them know where they can go ahead and do that? And if you want to add anything else, go ahead and add it now as well.
Yeah. So my website is amyrosner.com. That's AMYROSNER.com. And contact information is there. I do free consultations for anyone who wants to learn more about this kind of thing. I don't take a lot of clients, but I'm always happy to talk to people. And I'm also on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and a few others that I haven't updated in a while. But those are the 2 main ones where you can find me easily, and I do regular posting on those platforms. Yeah, if anybody has any questions about anything that I think I'm a big educator, and so I always want to make sure that whatever I can do to help people understand, whether they work with me or not, and whether they read my book or not, if I can help answer some questions and get somebody on maybe a little bit different trajectory than they were on before to make some changes in their life that they want to make, then that's a win for everybody, I think. So my book is available on Amazon. It's called Reconstructing Reality, Outsmarting the Brain to Rewrite Our Life Stories. And it's available in all formats, paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. So on Audible and iTunes. So, yeah, check it out. And let me know what you think. I look forward to seeing your reviews and if it's some new information for people. I hope it is.
Yeah, I learned a lot from reading the book, and I've read all kinds of books kind of in this similar thing. So I think any book, you can really take a lot from it. With that being said, Amy, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate all your insights.
Thanks so much for having me. And I just hope, more people can understand all the benefits and that it's just tapping into the brain, the way the brain works. There's nothing crazy about it. And it's so quick and easy compared to some other approaches. So anything that can get people going in a better direction, make the world a better place, one brain at a time, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I keep making these episodes. So thanks everyone for tuning in. So thanks for listening. And wherever you listen to this podcast, please rate the podcast so it can get into the minds of more people. And I'd love to hear your feedback. And I hope to see you on the next episode.